a sort of different group of people. Typically I give presentations to attorneys or other librarians, but this is a really cool other sector of our patrons who I'm really happy to talk to you today and show you what our library has that might be of use to you and to your clients in mediation. So first is a very general overview of the library. And I'll also say that if at any time you have questions, please feel free to put those in the chat. I'm happy to try to address them as I go, or otherwise we'll have some time at the end of my portion for questions, and I can loop back around to them then. So as a very brief introduction of our library, as Taylor said, we are located in downtown Austin by the Capitol, and we originally came about as the library for the Supreme Court. So Texas was formally established as a state in 1845. The Supreme Court was founded in 1846 without a library, and then we sort of came along in 1854. And in the 1860s, there was a series of bills from the legislature sort of shaping and forming the library. And a notable one was in 1866, they required that the library be open for public use. So as far back as 1866, we have been open to the public and serving the public. In 1972, over the 100 years before we came open to the public in 1972, we sort of fell into disarray under the Supreme Court. There were some problems of funding and leadership. And so it was suggested that we break off as our own agency out from under the courts. So this meant that we had a little bit more control over our funding, our leadership, and what resources and materials that we provided. So since then, we have shifted our focus from directly supporting the courts to really more supporting anyone in Texas who has questions about the law. That still does include a lot of members of the judiciary. We're sort of in the same building as the Supreme Court and the Court of Criminal Appeals, so we see a lot of their employees, but we also serve all other state agencies, a lot of practicing attorneys across the state, but mainly more and more these days, it is everyday people who have questions about the law, who either it's not an issue that sort of rises to the level of obtaining an attorney, they can't afford an attorney, maybe they're just kind of wanting to understand their rights or the duties imposed on them in the law. And so we have been really focusing more on those sorts of people. And so it sounds to me like that is what a lot of your clients are going to fall into that category. They're in a legal situation. It hasn't quite escalated to the point that it's going to enter the court system, or perhaps the court has ordered mediation before rendering a decision, but they may need a sort of overview of their rights under the law, understanding what their options might be for them or the duties of the other party to them. So I will show you some of the resources that we have put together over the past, I think at this point, looks like 13 years now. We have also made a conscious decision to make as many of these resources available as remote as possible. We acknowledge that we are one library located in Austin, and it is a very big state with a lot of people out there who we are, required by the legislature to serve. So it is very difficult to serve someone in Lubbock or someone in El Paso or someone in Brownsville if all we have are physical materials here in Austin. So to that end, we have really built up our website a lot. We have a lot of great information for free on the website. Well, everything is free. There's not any charge for any services from the library except for like buying copies. But to use our resources, it's all free. There are many resources available freely, perhaps without a login, but we do have some additional resources that once you register for a library account with us, you'll have access to. And those are sort of the more advanced, more in-depth resources. It's free to sign up for a library account. There are no limitations on who is eligible for an account, with the one exception being that you be located in Texas. When we first introduced this program, the vendors that we are working with, the publishers, didn't want this to be available to just anybody on the internet. So they asked us to put some guardrails in place. And the criteria that we developed was you just had to be in Texas. Um, so that's the one requirement. I'll show you the sign up process at the very end. It's very simple, takes about 5 minutes, but some of the resources you will require a library account, and I'll be sure to point out which ones of those as we go through it. So I'm going to share my screen now, and you should be seeing this is our website. I will caution you to not get too attached to how this looks. We're in the process of redesigning it with the hope of making it a little bit easier to navigate, easier to find specific resources, but it'll still retain the same basic elements on there. Should you be interested, once we have the redesign out and ready to go, we'll probably do another series of general overviews of our website so that people who are used to finding things in a certain place are sort of now wondering where they went. So you can stay tuned for that. But I wanted to point out a few sort of key elements that when you're using our website, you'll want to take a look at. So the first, we have this menu bar across the top. This is going to be available from every page. It will help you navigate to the most used parts. You can use that to navigate at any time. Another thing of note is this quick links box, and I'll scroll down a little bit so that you can see what's in it. And so these are the features of our site that we think that people use most frequently. They might, want to get directly there, and I'll point out each of these throughout our tour. So as I said, to access many of the resources on our website, you'll need to create or renew an account. We'll get to that a little bit later. But one of the ways that I like to sort of organize my tours is to show you resources that sort of expand in scope. So I like to start with resources that are very specific, that answer a very narrow, discrete question, and then move from there into resources that have a little bit broader scope and broader and broader. So the narrowest material that we have are our legal FAQs. You can click this link here. You can also get to it from the top menu. And what these are answers to frequently asked legal questions. These are created by our librarians based on questions that people ask us directly. We take questions from the public by email and by phone and in person. And so if we start seeing a trend that people are really asking this question over and over, that's a sign to us that we need to make this information available, because there are probably a lot more people out there who are wondering this question, but just aren't voicing it to us. People can, be a little intimidated about bringing these sort of very these questions about intimate personal parts of their life to the government. We recognize that's not maybe the warmest reception that people have gotten. So we try to be very responsive to sort of trends in these needs. So you can see that almost all of these have been based on repeated questions that we get. All of them follow basically the same format. So I will show you a sort of representative one. This is a pretty common question that we get. Can a business charge a fee for using a credit card or a debit card instead of cash? We get this question all the time. And some common elements to each FAQ. We try to have a little summary here up at the top to give you sort of a broad synopsis of what the rest of the page is going to go into detail about. And unfortunately, this one is, it depends, which is a really common legal answer, as I'm sure you guys know. It depends. But then from there, we will go into further explanation about maybe aspects of this question that people want to know, but we will always make sure to cite to the relevant statutes. Nothing as a librarian sort of irritates me more than when I see a news article or a blog post that says the law says this, but it doesn't tell you what law. Um, a lot of the time, people are just looking for the sort of overview of that law or the summary of it. But we, as librarians, we feel it's very important that we provide the original source for this so that people can go read it for themselves and properly cite and quote it. So you will always see links to the law. You may also see external information. So in this case, there was a lawsuit that sort of called into question the validity of a statute. And so as librarians and not lawyers, we can't really tell you what that lawsuit means, but we can report on the facts and how it's raised into question the statute. So you'll see information about that. You can see here we've linked to the order, the judgment, any other documents that a person might have questions about. And when we can, if we see quality, authoritative articles explaining a law, here we have one that was likely written by an attorney that analyzes and explains the law. When we find those, we will link those too, because as we all know, the law is very difficult to understand. Because we don't have attorneys, we can't be the ones writing these explanations, but we are on the lookout for things that explain the law in understandable terms and plain English so that anyone who comes to our site can understand it. Our entire site that is written, the portions that are written by us, so that are not these external resources, we're aiming for a very low reading level. We try to have it around grade 8. Ideally, if we can bring it lower to like grade 6, that's ideal, because I think the studies have shown that the average adult in the United States really reads at about a upper elementary, lower middle school level. So with that in mind, and knowing that we do serve so many everyday people, we're really wanting to make sure that these are resources that they can actually use and understand. So finally, if we have additional information on our guide where people can go for other questions, other information, if they want to find out more, we will point to other places on our website where they can find that information. So here, a related FAQ, or in this case, guide, which I'll show you next, is our guide to consumer protection. So that brings us back to our front page. You can go there anytime by clicking on this, the top banner. This is going to be a link right to back to the home page, so for easy navigation. And as I said, the sort of next level of expanding our scope in answering legal questions, finding legal information, are what we sort of varyingly refer to as our legal topic guides, legal research guides, our guides. These are resources put together by our librarians that sort of compile a lot of different sources of information about the law into one package on a topic. So I'll click our legal topics. And at this point, we have almost 80 guides. There are some that are more geared towards legal research specifically. So as you can see up at the top, we've got biographical sources about members of the judiciary and attorneys, maybe for people who are perhaps doing genealogy and they're wanting to research a family member. We have down here, you can see guides to finding historical law. But today I really want to talk to you more about the subject matter guides. So as an example, let's go to divorce, which I'm guessing might be a pretty common issue in mediation. And like the FAQs, all of our guides have much the same format. So because we create the guides on very, very broad topics, divorce, is actually a pretty large topic once you start looking at it and start breaking it down. There's a lot of different steps of the process. How do I file? How do I, what to do at the trial? What happens after the trial? All that kind of things. So we've broken these down into separate pages based on the different aspects of an issue so that it's easier for people to not only find the information they're looking for, but also to digest the information. I think that we can all agree when you look at any resource and you find that it's 20 pages long, it's intimidating, it's daunting, it's hard to process. And so recognizing that, we break it down into subtopics by page, and then each page is going to have additional boxes by sort of subtopic. So here, for example, is filing for divorce. So at the top, you can see that you'll see a little navigation menu that shows you all of the different subtopics that we've identified under filing for divorce. So where do I file? What's appropriate venue? What are the forms that I would need to do so? Can I file online with e-filing? All that kind of thing. And then each box has a sort of similar topic when we've found the pieces. Let's see if I can find a good one. Here's a really great one. So there are kind of 3 common subheadings for each box, which may or may not appear depending on the content there. But you'll have an understanding the law box or section. These are articles, blog posts, just sort of overviews of this topic, again, put into plain English. We do our best to restrict these to reputable sources, authoritative sources. So more likely than not, you will find that these are authored by nonprofits in the legal sector, government agencies, especially we like to see these. Attorney blog posts, sometimes we are cognizant that a lot of attorneys' websites are to retain clients, to advertise to clients. And so we try to weed those out, but attorneys at the same time do a really good job of posting these good explainers on their websites. So we'll include those sometimes. So that's understanding the law. You will also see forms when applicable. So if this is the topic on which there is a relevant form that is available for free online, and that is published by like I said, a reputable source, then we will include those as well. We will not provide forms that are authored by these like Legal Forms USA things where someone might have to pay. We will not post forms that are not appropriate for use in Texas, those sorts of things. When there's not a free form available online, if we have identified a resource in our collection that might have applicable forms, we will link to it, and I'll show you what that means more in a moment. And then finally, there wasn't anything, it looks like here, but I didn't see one up at the top. The final section is the relevant Texas law. So again, we're always careful to be citing back to the controlling law or rules on the topic so that someone can go and read it themselves. We are careful to update these guides after every legislative session. We go through and review them so that we can make sure that we have incorporated any changes in the law and that this content is going to be current. Other additional information, so there is a forms section, in each box potentially, but we also do have a link to a separate legal forms page when we think that there are going to be a lot of forms relevant to the topic. So here are any forms relevant to divorce that you might find. We have linked them here, and there are quite a few. And then again, books and ebooks that might contain these forms, if there are none, or not the specific ones that the person is looking for, available freely. So important to understand the FAQs and the guides. These do not require a library account to visit. They're available freely on the web. But as in the cases of our ebooks, they may link to some resources that do require a login. So on that topic, again, going back to our front page by clicking on the banner and returning to our quick links box. Our books and ebooks. As a library, the heart of our existence are the resources that we gather and provide to the public. In our library, this includes both traditional books in a print format and ebooks, which, although they're online, they're often similar to a print book in that we only have one copy of an ebook to lend at one time. So if it's in use by one person, it can't be used by another. The platform we use, y'all may be familiar with through your local public library. Austin uses Overdrive, so you may find that it's very familiar to you. It's very easy to use. It has a lot of really great features. We'll see if I have time to show you some of those features today. It starts getting a little bit in the weeds, and I'm trying to be cognizant of the time, but I'll show you, what it looks like and a few things to expect from it. So this is our recommended ebooks, books and ebooks page. These titles have been specifically chosen by our librarians based on a number of criteria. Perhaps they are an excellent overview of a topic, like a great starting point for your research. They are certainly going to be up to date. We're not going to list anything here that is out of date, that does not contain the most recent updates to the law, so that you know it will be reliable. Perhaps it is a resource that has an excellent coverage of a specific aspect of the law that you might be particularly interested in. And then we also have the titles that are listed here that are sort of renowned as, like this is the title on the topic. So if you're not sure where to get started, or if you have a client who is generally interested in a topic, this is a really good place to start. It's a nice starting point for your research. And as you can see over here on the left, we have organized these titles by topic, thinking that anyone who comes to us with a research goal is going to have a topic in mind. So I'll show you family law, just for example, or we can look at, let's look at lawsuits and civil procedure. So up at the top, these, much like the guides to make things sort of more digestible, we have one broad topic per page, and then within that topic, we break it down into sub-subjects. So here are some of the options that we have. And then when we go to the box itself, you will see that there is a tab for ebooks. These are only going to be available online. But then when you switch to books, the books tab, this will list items that are in print in our library. Titles that are specific to Texas law have this little flag to let you know, but we do also have titles available that are more general in their overviews. Perhaps they are on a federal level, perhaps it's a national overview of American law on the topic. But in general, so here's the look at the books, and you can also see that any print book is going to be additionally indicated here by saying it's a print book. We took that extra step knowing that many of the people who visit our site are not in Austin, and so we specifically want to make sure that they're aware that the print books they wouldn't be able to access elsewhere. So when you click on one of these links, what it will do is take you to the catalog page for that item, which shows some additional details about it. Scrolling down here, you'll see that this has a really detailed table of contents, so you can see specifically what is covered per chapter. It looks like here we have a link to the publisher's table of contents on their website that may break it down even more. So if you're you don't want to check it out just yet before you know if it might address your specific issue, you can use those to maybe drill down. It will always show you the latest update we've received. So anything with an automatic update is going to be up to date. And then finally, you'll look for this little box, this little button that will show you where to go to download it. So when I click on that, it will take me to Overdrive. This is the point at which you would be prompted for your login. I'm already logged in, so it didn't ask me, but this is the view that once you're logged in, you're going to see. So here it looks like this is a 4-volume set. Each volume is going to be a separate book. So you would have to check these out individually. You can see that you can do so by clicking on that read button. You can have up to 3 books, ebooks, checked out at a time. And they are available for 7 days. If you're done, you can return it early. But otherwise, it will automatically return. There are no fines charged for ebooks. So you don't need to worry about it. And let's see if any of these are checked out. I don't see that these are checked out. If it were in use by another patron, this would not say read, and it would say place a hold. At that point, you'd be prompted for your email address, and we would automatically let you know once it was available and that you could come in and check it out. So very briefly, I'll check one of these out and I'll show you what it looks like inside. It has some really cool note-taking features that most notably remain after you're done with the book. So this looks a little, there we go. Once you have, not sure why this, there we go. Once you make your notes and make your highlights, if you return the book or if it's automatically returned, those notes remain not only within the book, but within the Overdrive platform. So if you go to check it out again, it saves your research. And I will show you an example of that. So just, very quickly, you can, if you said, oh, this is really important to me, I'm going to highlight it. You can also go in and click to add notes to yourself so that you can organize your research and remind yourself of maybe, why did I think this was important? You could say, this is important for this on this date, and then it will save that for you. So an example of how it saves this, I'm going to go back out to the main Overdrive platform using this little, what they call a hamburger menu up here in the top corner. If I click on that, I'll have the opportunity to go to my annotations. You will note that currently, this book right here is the only one that I have currently checked out. But as we scroll down the page, these are all of the other books that I've ever checked out and ever made annotations in. I can still view those annotations even though they're not checked out at the moment. So it's a really nice way if you're like, oh no, I did this research, my book got returned, and now it's checked out by somebody else, and I really need that. It is still available to you here, along with the color you highlighted in. Some people like to organize their highlights based on which party or which case it pertains to, because you can sort by color, you can export by color. It's really, really nice. You can also see the note that you left for yourself. And even if the material has then been subsequently updated, perhaps. So a really, really cool feature here that I like to make sure that people are aware of, because this is a super powerful tool. You can also tag things. You can tag different books based on how you think that they might be relevant to you. If you have favorite books for sort of one aspect of your practice, favorite books for another, you can give them a tag so that you can then go back in and say, okay, these are the materials that I was concentrating on for this issue. They're all here in one place for you. Okay, so I'm coming up on my 30-minute time. And I am going to then show you very lastly how to sign up for a library account. Taylor, am I doing okay on time? We were looking at a 12:30.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, cool.
If you
All
have
right.
any questions, you can drop them in the chat and we'll get to them in a second.
Yeah. And a very timely question from Diane in the chat. Does this work with any library card or is there a specific card for SLL? We are independent of all the branches, so you will need to get an account with us. It's very simple to do so. And so at the top of every page, you'll see this box, which has what we'll look at here is my library account. And this is, you can also, there's a link in the quick link box on the front page to register or renew. And let's see, this one actually, here we go. Need an account, register online. So when I mentioned earlier that our publishers asked us to restrict this to only people in Texas, our genius web manager came up with a way to do this online. In person, it's very easy. They walk up to our desk, they're in Texas, that's fine. But when you're online, it's a little bit more difficult to discern. And so he devised a way to use the geolocation features of your web browser or your smartphone to determine where you are and whether you're in Texas. So before you can see the registration form, so if I scroll down here, you can see there's no form. What you must first do is click this green button to determine your location to see whether you're in Texas. I will note that if you are on like a company computer or something, there may be firewalls that interfere with this. We do have some troubleshooting tools, but in those cases, we typically recommend that you just use a different device. Smartphones are a great option. So to get to the registration, you will need to click the green button. You might see a pop-up that says access location services or enable location information. We ask that you click agree or allow. And we do not keep that information. We delete it. We do not use it for any other purposes. So for privacy concerns, please know that this is the only instance in which that information is used. So you should see something that says you're in Texas, yay. And then when you scroll down now, you will see the form fields required to sign up for an account. When you sign up, when you submit the form, you will receive a verification email to confirm that the email that you gave us is the one associated with your account, and then you should be all set to go. This should take no more than 15 minutes for the sort of automated process to run. And then finally, before I get to questions, I'm going to go back to the front page and show you another resource that I encourage you to use. I encourage you to refer to your clients. Questions, ask us. If you have any questions about how to use anything, where anything is located, starting points for research, please get in touch with us. We have a team of librarians here that can be contacted by email, by phone, and of course, you're welcome to come in person. You know, if you or your clients are in the Austin area, our building is open to the public. And we are in the final stages of finishing up obtaining a text messaging number. So soon you'll be able to send us text messages so we can help you out, renewing your account if you need help, helping you, find a good form, things like that. So there are many ways to get in touch with us. We're happy to help with anything. So now to questions briefly. Okay, so the first one, does this work with any library card? Got that one. Belinda asks, who can see the annotations and notes? No one but you. Our librarians do not have access. They're entirely private to your account. Nobody else can see those, including people who check out the book after you. They only have access to their notes. You only have access to yours. And then we have another question. Can one have an online account to access ebooks as well as an account that also allows you to check out physical books? Great question. So the sort of base account that you can get by signing up online only allows you to access ebooks. If you would like to upgrade that to check out physical books, you just need to come in person. We would ask that you bring a piece of ID so that we can verify your address, so that in case you have any books overdue, we can contact you. But that is free. It's free to check out books. And so, yes, we encourage you to register for a library account online to start, and then come visit us to upgrade that account. And to do so, all you need to do is come up to the front desk. We have a librarian there at all times and say, I'd like to upgrade my account, and we will get you squared away. And then a question from Diane in the chat is texaslawhelp.org related to the state law library? No, we are not. However, we do work very closely. Texas Law Help is operated by Texas Legal Services Center. They're the sort of main provider and administrator of a lot of legal services, legal aid in Texas. And one division of Texas Legal Services Center is Texas Law Help. We link to a lot of their stuff. They link to a lot of our stuff. We have a great relationship with them. They do excellent work. So while we are not the same entity, we work very closely together. And then one final thing that I will make y'all aware of before I hand it back to Taylor. Taylor, that was correct. You wanted me to wrap up soon, correct?
Yes.
Okay, fabulous. All right. Just because this is, I know, a concern for us as librarians, and I'm sure that y'all have run into it too, people are wanting to do their own research, as they come into one, and more people are using AI to do so. There are a lot of reasons to be very, very careful with this. And so in conjunction with a few other law librarians across the country, recognizing that people are going to use these resources. They're out there. People are seeing them as a great tool. They're going to use them. So we produce this guide to make sure that they're doing so in a responsible manner that's not going to get them in trouble as far as getting wrong information, misleading them. And that's also going to help them do it effectively. So I will drop this in the chat. If you think that this would be helpful to pass along to your clients, if you see that they're using AI to prepare, and you have some sort of concerns about the information they're getting from it, this might help them reevaluate the information a little bit better, incorporate more traditional sources of legal information to verify, just so to prevent any problems as far as misinformation, misunderstanding, just to, because as we all know, that's the first step when things start going off the rails. So I'll put this in the chat. Please feel free to share it, to print it. Um, and then if you have any other questions, please feel free to submit those through that Ask a Librarian page on our website. And thank you again for this time. This has been great to talk with you all.
Of course. Thank you so much, Amy, for talking with us today.
Mhm. And I will
For
stop sharing my site too.
thanks. For those of us that missed the beginning, I'm gonna have a link ready for the recording, and we can send it to you when we send out the certificates. But thank you again, Amy. And then we're gonna have Erin Robinson present. She is the executive director of the Austin DRC. Let me see. Erin, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
All right.
All set on my end.
Yes.
Good. Well, first of all, Amy, thank you for that presentation. We work pretty closely with the Travis County Law Library, but there are definitely some differences, and I learned a lot. So thank you for taking the time to add to that. So for those of you that are just joining, my name's Erin Robinson. I am the executive director of the Austin DRC. I see a lot of familiar faces here, and so for those of you that join my office hours every month or volunteer with us, some of this is going to be repetitive, so just bear with me. But also feel free if there's anything I miss, those of you that work with us that you'd like to add in the chat or raise a hand and add to whatever I'm saying, please feel welcome to. It's interactive and you guys are with us every day, so by all means. So today, what we really wanted to touch on is we've had a lot of changes going on at the DRC in Austin over these last couple of years. And so the team at the AMA thought it might be helpful for me to hit some of the highlights and to answer any questions that you may have. We have probably most importantly and most urgently for a lot of you, after 30 years in one location, we recently moved to offices, and that has been a really big deal for us in a lot of different ways. I could go on for a long time, but primarily, I'd like for you guys to know that we now office at the Travis County Court, and that is at 1700 Guadalupe. That means a few different things for us, and first is that for one thing, this has meant an 85% cut in our rent budget, which has opened up a lot of funding for us to be able to refocus our efforts, better support our staff, and bring in a new staff member. So that was one reason behind the move. But on top of that, we are now quite literally around the corner on the same floor with the Travis County Law Library. And in terms of day to day, not only are we seeing increased referrals from the law library, but it's also allowing us to update our process and update our documents to better collaborate with them so that we're seeing increased efficiency and also better serving our clients by making sure that what we are doing in our mediations is going to be supported and accepted by judges. So we've been working with them and we'll be doing a training with them in the first week of July. But being in the same building has really allowed us to build that relationship. We are now more downtown and a little bit more central. We are on two different public bus lines. I will say, and everybody wants to ask about the parking situation. And what I really want to highlight is that as employees and volunteers, we do have free parking and we can coordinate that with you. So if you are ever coming to mediate with us or just can't manage parking and need that support or help from us, please contact me or any of our case management team. You can also call our main line and we can work with security to give you access to our employee parking lot. And that is really not a problem. It does take planning, so please contact us, at least a couple of days ahead, but we can make that work for you. And to build on that, for our volunteers and our visitors, the way that it works, and it is obviously more complicated than our old address, but the way that it works is we make arrangements for the visitor to come to us. We notify security that they will be coming. You then park in the employee garage, and there are elevators inside the garage that will take you up to the courtyard. And I'm mentioning this in detail because it was sort of alien to us when we first started, and we have had sticking points with our visitors. So I like to go through the details, and any of you that have questions, just let me know. Once you come into the courtyard, you'll go into the building, and a lot of questions surround security at the courthouse. Yes, you do have to go through security. It's about, I find it simpler than airport security. It's pretty quick. But because of the different types of cases, the presence of the judges, all of that, we are required to go through security each day. And for employees, we all do the same process. After that, you're pretty much home free. We are on the second floor. We currently have a set schedule where we have different staff that are in office from 9 until 4, Monday through Thursday, and then the staff works remote on Friday. That being said, we work all sorts of hours outside of the 9 to 4 based on our own mediation schedules, meetings, public speaking engagements, all of that. So never feel like you can't reach out to us. You'll get a response pretty quickly. So that's been a big transition. We did move there in January. It has ultimately been very positive. There's plenty of moving and growing pains, but we're seeing so many benefits from that. That and a combination of other things, we're also seeing an increase in cases coming to us. Our numbers have been about an average of a 20% increase over our first 2 quarters of this fiscal year. So we're really seeing an increase in our reach towards the audience and towards the public, and also being able to collaborate and support with our peers. So those have been really great and slightly overwhelming things for all of us. Um, we also just wanted to do a quick touch base on some program changes that we have that are going on. The first thing, and maybe some of you have seen it in the news, there have been some pieces on the radio, but after many years of trying to collaborate with Austin Police Department, we were able to sign on with a partnership last November. And what that involves is that when a member of the public files a complaint against an officer, that officer will be given the opportunity to bring that complaint to mediation. And if they agree, we will work with them and also the member of the public to work through that issue. Now, a few things. First of all, only civil issues. They tend to be, statistically, they tend to be things like using coarse language, curse words, being offensive, that kind of thing. And what this means for the officers is that they have an opportunity to mediate and also to build that skill. If they participate, then a note goes in their file saying that they did agree to mediation and participated in good faith. It doesn't have to come to resolution, but they do have to participate rather than having a note in their file that's just a straight complaint. So it will not be wiped from their file, but it will not negatively impact their employment with the police department. Interestingly, for me at least, so far we've had several referrals from APD, and in all of those cases, the police officer has agreed to participate, while the member of the public has declined. So we're told to expect anywhere between 30 and 50 cases in a year. So far we've seen 6. So that has been, I suppose, pretty much on track with what we're expecting to happen moving forward. Another thing that I am doing, which I hope will really set a standard for more participation from officers, is that I am beginning to speak briefly at each police academy. There tend to be 4 or 5 per year. And They don't have a lot of free time, so it's usually 10 to 15 minutes, but it does allow me the opportunity to go in and introduce the idea of mediation. And the hope is to sort of shift thinking and also expand minds because most of the public and certainly these officers, their understanding is what they see on TV of mediation. They think law and order, they think court, they think judges. It's quite intimidating. And so it's really good to have that opportunity to talk with them early on and introduce the idea. I'm very interested to see how that program progresses. A lot of people ask me about what were some of the limiting factors in coming to that agreement before. It was weapons, and the DRC has a firm stance of no weapons on site or visible during any sort of mediation. That was a challenge in the past, and we were able to come to a resolution with that and are really excited to be able to support APD. And then also, this means that we work in collaboration with Austin Police Oversight. And that's just been really interesting and positive to work as a trio, introducing the idea of mediation and conflict resolution with that group. And I do see a couple of questions that have come in, and I'll run through those at the end because I do want to be able to tell you a little bit about staffing shift that we have had. Again, for those of you that may have worked with us in this past year, you know the drill and add anything that you like, but we have had two new staff members that have joined us. Many of you may know that Lisa, our financial director, retired after 36 years about a year ago. And we had a new finance and HR director join us. His name is Guillermo Escorcia, and he's been a wonderful addition. He's learned a lot, really positive attitude, just a delightful person to have around. And he is finishing his master's in HR in September. So he's currently been working with us for 30 hours and will go full time once he has graduated. So feel free to reach out to him. Like I said, he's a delight. And we also, I think Ronnie is on this meeting. Just about a month ago, we hired a new office manager, and her name is Ronnie Riojas. And she has been a wonderful addition right away. Quick learner, again, a great attitude. She just completed the 40-hour mediation training, so some of you may have gotten to know her. And she will be your primary point of contact if you're ever just needing to reach out to the DRC. So please join me in welcoming her and feel free to contact her for anything that you need. I'm sure many of you are wondering what that means for Rita, and an exciting shift for us has been Rita, who is our office manager for 21 years, is now shifting over to being the assistant exclusively for the case management team. I think I saw a question come up about how are we dealing with these influx of cases, and I will go into that more, but we've been doing a lot of reallocation of responsibilities, and one of the things is that we really noticed that Rita's strengths were so focused on being really wonderful about tending to our clients and supporting our case managers. So she has shifted over to that full time to support our case management team of 3 people. So finally, we'll see how we go moving forward. But if we continue with these numbers, we'll probably be entertaining the idea of adding either another case manager or a director of volunteers. That's a ways off, but I do get a lot of questions about what the future looks like for the team, and that is what we are currently dabbling with. So we've had, as I said, a few different changes that have been going on for us. Ultimately, it's been really positive. It is a lot of growth and it is a lot of change. And really, after bringing Ronnie on board, I think the focus for a little while, certainly through the end of our fiscal year, which takes us to October 1, we are really just focusing on the work, the clients, catching up, doing some maintenance. And if any of you are interested in mediating with us, please let us know. Every couple of years, we sort of clean out our volunteer list for those that can no longer participate and bring on new people. So we would welcome you and encourage you to get in touch. I know that's a flyby. That was what, 10 minutes of telling you a lot of different things. So I'm going to run through some questions and then I'm happy to just talk through anything that you guys have. We still have about 10 minutes, I believe. So let's see. So first we see with the increase in cases, will the DRC be amenable to accepting new volunteer mediators? Yes, absolutely. We are basically on Monday, we have a meeting at 11 o'clock to finalize our updated volunteer list with David Wing, our Director of Volunteers. And then we are going to strategize about bringing new people on board. For those of you that aren't familiar, each time we host a 40-hour training, we ask the trainers to recommend a couple of people to contact to see if they're interested working with us, and then we also reach out to people individually on our own. So always feel free to contact us. Ronnie's name, our email address is ronnie@austindrc.org. There's also David, who's our director of case management. It's david@austindrc.org. And it looks like I may be breaking up a little bit. I apologize if I am, but you can contact any of them as well as myself if you're interested in volunteering with us. We would love to have you. Let's see. Belinda says, if I understood correctly, the folks who declined mediation were public members. What is the DRC doing to educate the public about the program besides PR? At this point, we are not currently doing any of that kind of work. Austin Police Oversight and Austin Police Department both have marketing departments that are handling that on their own, doing education and encouragement. So I work with them and have done a couple of different speaking engagements in collaboration with them, but we don't specifically have a program for that. What else have we got? Actually, those are the only questions that I'm seeing right now. What else have we got going on? Has anybody had any other thoughts, any questions, any way that I can help any of you?
Can I ask if you're going to try to do diversion with the police department eventually?
Eventually, so what we had agreed to, we have a contract with them for 2 years. And in my mind, although I'm very open to feedback from them, in my mind, it's really focused on building awareness within the department and building a presence before we can move on to any further evolution of the program. Historically, the biggest resistant has just been police culture. And we're also trying to figure out how we better reach members of the public so that we see more collaboration there. But that's a really good question, and I think it's just a little bit further down the road.
Awesome, that's wonderful to hear. We have another question from Patricia. She says, does the DRC welcome Williamson County cases?
Yes, absolutely. I suppose one of the perks of living in Texas and not having a whole lot of restrictions about how we operate is that we welcome cases from all over the country. We typically have most of our clients who are bringing the case to us are in Texas, but occasionally we have participants from other states and we can collaborate that well. 83% of our cases are currently within Travis County, but we are happy to help with Williamson or anywhere else. And we do have one participant from Switzerland for what it's worth. Anybody else? Are judges currently using DRC services to resolve cases at the courthouse? The judges have begun referring cases to us, and we have definitely seen an increase in those, especially since moving. We are not yet having any sort of program where we're able to receive referrals in real time. We've had a handful of people that are coming down to our offices to seek assistance directly from court, but most of them are referrals via phone or email that we then tend to with our normal cycle. My hope is that eventually we can bring one or two full-time mediators on board that can receive those referrals, but we are not there yet.
Erin, can you talk a little bit more about that? I missed a little bit about what you said in terms of full-time mediators. What the I know it's a ways down, but what is the vision?
Well, the hope and the request that we've received from the county judges is that we have one or two mediators, likely two, that are on staff with us that can receive clients referred straight down from courts on a daily basis. That would be a combination of issues. We sometimes receive referrals that can be resolved and addressed in a short amount of time, in an hour, sometimes less than an hour. And so we're interested in creating a program that we might be able to address those and mediate those at that time. Also, a lot of them would be working with our clients that refer down to be able to get their intake done, to be able to enter them into our system, gather any information, talk to both parties, and do all of the work that we have to do to set up on site at that moment. That makes our process a lot more efficient and also creates a relationship with the mediators right away. It's wonderful to have our case managers in the process, but we find that there is some anxiety from our clients when they're moving from the case manager to the mediator. So having that presence is also something that we find might be really helpful to our clients moving forward. But again, that's a longer term project.
No, but helpful to hear the whole goal around that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Let's see. We have our judges currently using DRC services. Yes, we answered that. Do you feel that the judges are generally familiar with DRC services? Yes, I do. We have had an increasing in presence, not only at the courthouse, but with the judges in general. We work very closely with Jeff Burkhart, who is the head of community legal services at the county, which has opened a lot of doors for us, and we built a lot of relationships with judges. We've also had a presence. I've been at the commissioner's court on a few different occasions, and we've had involvement, close involvement from two of the commissioners, which has helped us to really build that presence and those relationships. So it's been a lot of work to be more visible in the community, to participate more. I'm also on two different county councils that involve different judges, and I do feel that they are more aware of us and also sharing that information, and we're receiving referrals from a greater number of judges than we had a couple of years ago. So overall, yes.
All right. I just want to say thank you so much, Erin and Amy, for presenting for us today. We're about to close up on the hour, so I'm gonna go ahead
Do you
and
have time for one more question?
yes. I just want to say that Matt put the evaluation link in the chat, so if everyone could click on that and fill that out, we'd really appreciate it. But yes, go ahead with the question.
Yeah, I wondered, Erin, do you find it helpful when I know there's a DRC council for the directors across the state? Do you often have an opportunity to see what other DRCs are doing that might be helpful and share what we're doing that might be helpful to them? Do you have that opportunity?
I do. I sit on that council and I'm actually the treasurer for the group. And so I do stay involved in that group and find it really beneficial. We meet quarterly as able and then tend to have a larger meeting once or twice a year. We are emailing back and forth probably on a weekly basis to ask questions, to share information and updates. And I find that really, really helpful. So yes, that is a great group. And we also do a lot of sharing of resources and putting people in connection with each other. One thing that I didn't mention is that we are switching to a new software system. For example, That was recommended to us by the ED of the Houston DRC, and he helped us build that relationship. That will be live in August. So that has been a great group. Especially, I joined almost 3 years ago, and they really sort of took me under their wing. So thank you. That's a good question. Well, thank you for joining. I appreciate everybody's time. Taylor, was there anything else before we wrap up?
I don't think so. I just want to remind everyone that we have another meeting in August, which is also online, and then we have our social in October and another meeting right after that. But again, thank you so much, Erin and Amy. You both had wonderful presentations today.
Thank you all.
Thanks,
Thank you so much for having
everybody.
me.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.